Something really interesting has happened on the CW. I think the success of the other shows that Greg's put on the air has brought a lot of sort of trust, and the trust with Warner Brothers as well. And we turn to these story areas, and you just expect somebody someday is going to be like, okay, like you hit peak like absurdity, like just let's try to make it a little more, because you could make it formulaic and because it works, but what we love about these characters is that you can put them in any situation and they make sense. There's really the relationships are so strong that it doesn't matter. The concept of the show is oh, thank you so much. The concept of the show is bananas, and yeah, you can have an episode about George Lucas dropping out of film school, and it would see like where are the stakes in that. But then season 1 was about saving the world. But one of the challenges is like what can you get away with and have it still work, and to have an episode that was the tiniest stakes imaginable in the DC universe, but making it so personal for two of our characters. It's great.
So along that line, we're thinking about one of the episodes we're particularly fond of is the Civil War episode, episode 4 Nations, which touches on some very intense topics.
Yeah.
How do you process and go through that from start to finish and make sure that you are going above and beyond to be sensitive, but also portray everything accurately?
Yeah, I mean it's hard when you do comedy because the goal is to be funny, but we also don't want it to be pure fluff. And when you're traveling through history, you have to take a stand on it can't be it can't be, you can't sanitize, and that episode in particular, like we had to think about long and hard, because to take like a fun genre like zombies and to marry it with something as awful as like institutionalized slavery in America, you're like, can we do these things at the same time, and how how can you do it in a way where the fun isn't detracting from the feeling, I think this season, as I alluded to on the panel, it's we're going to recognize that there's parts of history that can't be fixed because they were broken to begin with, and giving our team like a greater sort of moral objective, so they're not just like fixing things by rote, like ripping the Time Bureau, but they're actually realizing that, like, especially Ray Palmer, like history could be re-engineered, because I think there's like a lot of things that we all wish were different, and so that's going to be the big sort of team journey of season 3 is realizing that sometimes the status quo stunk.
Talking about ripping the Time Bureau, we know a little bit about his new role, how it's going to play into it.
Yeah.
Can you say anything about how much of Arthur Darvill we'll see this season?
Yeah. As much as we can. He's got a flourishing career on other shows and many talents that make him, very sought after. I think at the moment we have a handful, I think last season there was a certain potency to the fact that we didn't have him in every episode, and then we never knew which Rip we were going to be meeting, and I think the same is going to be true for Wentworth this season. He's not a regular anymore, but it's all about like how can we make the most out of those appearances.
Can you talk about juggling such a large cast and so many different characters, and how you guys go about getting stories for each of them?
Yeah. I think season 1 we tried to diplomatically divide things 8 ways, and we found that the consequence was you didn't have enough for any one person. Now we decide whose episode it's going to be, and sometimes it has to do with the anachronism the mission of the week, the era of history that you're going to be in, and sometimes it's an interpersonal, the bait and switch of our show is that, there's only a handful of scenes where all 8 of them are in there because, it's just impossible to shoot coverage on 8 people without, making your actors hate you, like rightfully. So it's sort of it's an illusion that, you have these interweaving storylines that hopefully speak to each other thematically in a way that even though people weren't sharing scenes, they were sharing the spirit of the other journeys that they were not a part of. And I think this allows for just a greater depth of, it allows us to explore a single character more deeply than just trying to give everybody an equal slice of the pie.
Can you tease any of the time period?
Yeah, sure, all of them? Yeah, just all of them. I can tease through episode 6 or 7, we start out in 2017, obviously, but we're going to take a little visit back to ancient Rome. We're going to have Simon Merrills. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He played Julius Caesar in Spartacus, and in our infinite creativity, he's going to play Julius Caesar on our show.
Shared universe.
Yeah, shared universe. And then from there, you all know about Billy Zane in the role of P.T. Barnum, and we're going back to 19th century circus and the sort of freak show and sort of the parallels between heroes by a different moniker as essentially a freak, and how our guys find their way into the circus. Number 3 is going into the future, meeting Zari, this sort of, depending on your politics, a post-apocalyptic or probably our potential future. And then from there, I alluded to the Amblin, sort of a bit of a love letter to E.T. And then, we have some other crazy ones. We're doing sort of a macabre Victorian Bram Stoker, Dracula, cobblestone streets and torch lamps and all that, which I don't think you should be surprised if Rip Hunter maybe figures into that one. My favorite, we have an idea, like a Helen, how the anachronisms work is instead of something being wrong with history, people or things get displaced to a different time, and so one of the displacements is Helen of Troy ends up in Hollywood in 1938 and starts a studio war between Louis B. Mayer and Jack Warner, who want to sign her as the latest it girl. And so it's the Trojan War playing out between 2 Hollywood studios.
Fantastic.
As well, Legion of Doom was kind of the ultimate supervillain team up.
Yeah.
So where do you go in terms of your antagonists after that?
Yeah. Well, I think the kernel that we're going to begin with is Damien Dark, and we've come up with a way that he can come into our show. He was kind of glib and a lighter version of himself, last season. We want to give him some real teeth and a real sort of sinister presence, and then we want to slowly build out his dark alliance. And again, it would be great if we could take people and creatures from Flash and Arrow, and also, you saw the Kuasa, characters that have a personal impact on our guys. The fact that Amaya, thought she had this destiny to fulfill. This season, she'll learn that her destiny wasn't just pure, I will have a granddaughter who will become Vixen. It's always mixed, and the idea that her lineage will also lead to that there will be a line of evil through her family. That's you want bad guys who have enrich our character story personally, as opposed to just two-dimensional I'm a bad guy who wants to rule the world. Our show is frothy and, you know, it's always personal. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.